Hello, welcome to lesson 41, partial method in C Sharp, brought to you by Ankpro Technologies. My name is Harish. In this session, we're going to learn what partial method is, and partial class or a struct can contain partial methods. Keep in mind, partial methods can be implemented only in the partial class or a partial struct, and the partial method is created using the partial keyword. Let us recall, in the previous session we created a partial class, and there we used a keyword called partial to just create the partial class. Similarly, if you want to create a partial method, then we should make use of the partial keyword. And the partial method declaration consists of two parts. One is the definition and other is the implementation. Before jumping into these things, what we'll do is we'll jump into Visual Studio and we'll start coding, and we'll learn how to create a partial method first. Okay, to do that, I'll fire up Visual Studio, and here I'm having the console template. To this console project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another two partial classes, and I'll name the partial classes as partial class 1. Okay, I'm having one partial class, and what I'll do is I'll just create another partial class and I'll name it as partial class 2. Okay, what did I do? I just added the two partial classes, and to the partial class 1, what I'm going to do here is I'll make this class as partial first. Okay, and I'll make public also. Okay, now I'll just create a partial method here. How to create a partial method? You have to make use of partial keyword, then void does not return anything, and sample. The method name is sample partial method. Okay, my method name is sample partial method. Okay, now what did I do here is I just created a partial method which is having only the definition. You can observe here, this partial method is having only the definition but not the implementation. Okay, next is what I'll do is I'll just create the normal method. How do I create a normal method? Public void, then I'll name it as my method name will be employee. And what this method is going to do, this method is going to print like employee method invoked on the console screen. Okay, now this method is also going to do other job, that is, it is going to invoke the sample partial method. But you can think like this partial method is having only the definition but not the implementation, and what is the use of calling this method here? Let's wait for that. What I'll do is I'll just build this project once, and the build got succeeded, and when I run this program, what's going to happen? Okay, what we'll do is I'll come to my main program class, and I'll rename the class as sample partial, like and I'll do it to my second class also, that is partial class 2, and I'll name it as sample partial. Okay, then I'll make it as public. Okay, fine. Now what I'll do is I'm having a partial class called sample partial class, and here also the same thing. And what I'll do is I'll just create an instance of this object, and I would like to call this employee method. So what I'll do is I'll come to my main program. Here is my main method, sample partial class sc equals new sample partial class, and when I use sc dot operator, it's giving me employee method. And when this program is going to invoke this employee method, keep in mind it's going to print this employee method invoked, and let us see whether it is going to invoke the sample partial method or not. Okay, I'll come to my main program and I'll press Ctrl F5 to run the program, and you can observe on the console screen it's going to print like employee method invoked but not the sample method invoked. Why? You can observe here Like in this partial class, in this employee method, we are having a piece of code which is printing employee method invoked, and also it has to call the sample partial method, but it did not call. Why? Because when the compiler build this program or build this project, it's going to print this employee method invoked, but immediately when it's going to jump here, it just see this sample partial method. It's not having any implementation, so it just ignores this and comes out of the loop. But my job is I want to provide an implementation to this. What I'll do is, instead of implementing the method here itself, I'll go to my another partial class and I would like to implement here. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just implement that method partial void, okay, sample partial method. I would I will print the sentence like sample partial method invoked. I'll just copy to just save the time. Okay, now what I do is, in my partial class sample, I'm having the definition of the sample partial method, but in my another partial class I'm having the implementation of it. Now when I go to my main program, and now when I build this project, it's going to build successfully. And also when we run the program, let's see whether it's going to invoke both the methods. Yes, it has invoked both the method, that is employee method invoked and also the sample partial method. That's what about the partial methods, sample partial methods. What we have to do is we have to provide a definition before implementing it. Yes, we have provided the definition. And is it compulsory we have to implement that method in this partial class? No, it's not compulsory. We can implement that sample partial method in other partial class also. And what is going to happen is, when you compile the program, the compiler is going to patch these two files, partial class 1 and partial class 2, into single file, and then it is going to compile. So at that time it's going to see the definition or implementation in either of the two classes, then it is going to build the project. Now what I'll do is just cut this implementation in the sample partial class 2 and I'll paste it in this sample partial class 1. Now when I go and build this project, it's built successfully, and when I run the program, you can observe it's working fine. It's not that you have to you have to provide implementation in the other class. You can provide implementation here also, it works fine. This is about the sample partial method. We'll jump back into presentation, and here you can observe partial method declaration consists of two parts, as we saw in the Visual Studio in the program, that is definition, only the method signature, and the implementation. That's what we did here. This is only the definition and this is the implementation. Okay, now the definition and the implementation may be in the separate parts of a partial class or in the same part. That's what we did in the example. We provided this implementation in the sample partial class 2, and this worked fine. Later what did we do? We just removed here and we pasted in the same class, and this also worked fine. That's what the meaning of this sentence. The definition and the implementation may be in the separate parts of a partial class or in the same part. This is what about the partial methods, and it's very easy to understand. And thank you for listening. Have a great day. Please subscribe to Ankpro training below. Thank you.